Hello, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings, Astrology for Healing. And we are talking about this May 5th eclipse. It's a Scorpio lunar eclipse, so it's a full moon in Scorpio. We've got the moon in the south node there. It is happening Pacific time, because I'm in Pacific time now, 4:34 p.m. And it's happening just a few minutes before the 15-degree mark in Scorpio. So we have a 15-degree lunar eclipse. I want to talk about what this eclipse, some of the energies that are coming up. I'm going to say right now, they could be potentially very deep energies. We are in Scorpio after all. I do have a primer video on Scorpio energy because I'm only going to talk about Scorpio in terms of this eclipse. So that link is below. I also have a link below. I am offering a live Zoom class on May 6th to really integrate some of these energies moving forward. And if you are thinking about coming, there's a few spots left, so please register. The link is below. All the information is below. It's really an offering because there's a lot coming up now. So let's talk about what's coming up. So right away, we have two of our zodiac's biggest paradigm shifters at work in this eclipse. We've got Pluto, ruler of Scorpio, okay? Co-ruler is Mars, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we have the ruler of Scorpio squaring the nodes. So Pluto is squaring the nodes in our previous eclipse in Aries. Now, however, Pluto has gone retrograde. Pluto went retrograde May 1st, depending when you're watching this. It's either just about to happen or it's already happened. And this is significant. So, you know, Pluto squaring the nodes, this is paradigm shifting energy, this change of Pluto moving between Aquarius, and now it's going to move back into Capricorn, and then it will station direct in October. We have about a year and a half of Pluto moving between these energies of Capricorn until it's fully in its Aquarius swing. And this is a breakdown. Okay, and Pluto being retrograde means that we're even entering more into that breakdown, but it's a breakdown that's happening with hopefully reflection. Okay, if we're not moving as the reflective beings that we can be, this could individually and definitely in the collective create quite a bit of tension. But in this eclipse, Pluto squaring those nodes means that whatever we're going through individually, this is part of something much bigger. Our other game changer who's present here is Uranus. Uranus is conjunct the sun, and Uranus is conjunct the sun at a very important place. Uranus is right towards the end of the 18 degrees in Taurus. And this is where Uranus was conjunct the North Node during the summer in August, okay? And this was a lot of energy for a lot of us. And Uranus then went retrograde, and so now it's been going direct. It's at this point, it's conjunct the sun during the Scorpio eclipse, and then Uranus is going to move forward on into a new cycle of its journey through Taurus. So that means that we could be reworking things that came up during August. We also are most likely reworking some things that may have come up in November of 2022. Because November of 2022, November 8th, was a Taurus eclipse at 16 degrees, okay? So very close to where the sun is right now. So especially if you have anything at the 15, 16 degree mark in Scorpio, Taurus, or if it's squaring in Leo or Aquarius, then you're most likely going to feel this eclipse in a personal way, okay? And again, what does that mean? It can mean anything, especially when Uranus is a co-player in this eclipse. It can be internal. It can be, you know, with Uranus there, you could get a phone call. It could be from a relative you haven't spoken to in a while. It could be a job opportunity. Most likely, whatever's happening is going to be about the energy that we're all working with in Scorpio. So I want to talk about that, okay? Because we have these game changer, we have this wild card, we have this paradigm breaking, but what are we breaking through in this eclipse? And most likely that is what is being illuminated through our Scorpio part of our psyche, our chart. And these are some deep reflective waters that we're being asked to come into, okay? We have the Scorpio moon. Let's look at the chart for a second. We have the Scorpio moon in a wide conjunction with that south node. down in Scorpio. And then we've got all that Taurus energy, right? In the previous solar eclipse in Aries, we had so much going on in Aries. A lot of that is now in Taurus. And so we're breaking something down in our psyche that's being illuminated through the Scorpio part so that we can manifest an embodiment of sustainability, self-authenticity, and self-empowerment in these Taurus realms of our life, okay? But in order for that Taurus, earthy materiality, true sustainability, true self-authenticity and empowerment to happen, something got to break down in Scorpio. So for this eclipse, I'm really feeling, working with the Scorpionic ideas of power and what that means and what we're breaking down. And most likely in some way or another, we are being asked to really let go of whatever illusions of power, misuses of power we ourselves were taught to take on. Okay, and this is something that happens just being a human being moving through a society based in patriarchy and colonialism and capitalism. We've been taught that power is about wealth, that power is about status, that power comes from having power over others. That's the big picture. And what in our own life has manifested this? Most likely, these are lessons that we learn in early childhood. Okay, Scorpio and the way that we learn about power and the Scorpio archetype is through deep intimacy. It is through merging, and it is through reliance on others. And when we're children, we rely on others. And so this is, you might be asked to look at some of those early experiences, some of which might be very tender. They might come up. But really, it's not about what we lived through or the type of environment. It's about the lessons that we learned about power that we took on. And we're being asked to let some of that go. I do think this has a bit to do with money, what we've been taught about money, the way that we bond sometimes to people in our families, sometimes, especially if there's a strong patriarchal presence, the father, and the way that money becomes an influence of power, and that gets conflated with love. And we're being asked to turn our back on that. We're being asked to turn our back on anything about love and intimacy that isn't actually about love and authenticity. And the way that we, moving forward, carry this authentic self who's deeply empowered through true connection to all that is, because that's the enlightened Scorpio. Scorpio in shadow, Scorpio that's being threatened, Scorpio that's surviving. Yeah, that Scorpio can manipulate. That Scorpio can plot like no other. That Scorpio knows how to survive. She's a survivor. Thank the goddess. And then she survives and she gets through. And sometimes we forget that we don't need to embody those early patternings anymore. And that's what we're being asked to let go of. However that's manifested, what we were taught about power, what we were taught about the way that power and power over can have something to do with love, we are being asked to be like the snake who is just freaking sloughing that shit off because we do not need it anymore. There is another path. There is another path for us to walk. It is beautiful, it is enlightened, and it will work out. Okay? Even if we struggle financially, even if we have financial debt, even if, I was talking with a friend just a day ago or so, that our society talks about financial debt. It doesn't talk about the debt that we get from emotional debt that we get from families. In my case, I prefer the clean-cut debt that I had to get from corporations in order to because I didn't have the type of family that could support me, right? But like, there's emotional debts, and they're tied to family lineages, and they're tied to a misuse of power, and we don't need them. And Scorpio can let go of them. And when we do that, Scorpio becomes this enlightened, beautiful, powerful self that can ricochet to that polarity up in Taurus, and it can walk a slow, steady path of empowerment in the material, I don't mean money material, I mean earth plane world. And Pluto's there squaring the nodes from Aquarius, saying this is what we have to do because we have to create a more evolved society. We have to create a society that's working for the betterment of humanity so that we can also work for the betterment of this earth that we live on. And this is all the layers coming together. And so it might be tender energy. It might be deep conditionings that are coming up. There might be things that just happen with that Uranus in play that helps us slough that skin. Or once I had a Uranus transit and down I went and broke my elbow and had, and it was like being forced to sit there where I would have been trying to move or trying to do things or just moving too quickly. And it was like, no. You're going to sit there and you're going to let the emotions move through you and you're going to see what you wouldn't have seen. I don't think everyone is going to break a bone in your head, but Uranus, especially if you have something up there around, say 17, 15 to 18 degrees in Taurus or in Scorpio, Uranus is talking with you, okay? And so these can also just be quick downloads of insights, right? It really depends what we're ready to see, what we're willing to see, how stubborn we're being, in terms of what we're ready to slough and move and embody. But this eclipse is asking us, this is the South Node energy pulsing with the full moon in Scorpio, opposite Uranus and the sun, square Pluto with those nodes. Things are moving. There is a pulse, a steadying pulse, especially if you're feeling anxious. Uranus can bring that anxiety up as well. Try and tap into a steadying pulse. And this is we're going to work with that steadying pulse in the eclipse workshop on the 6th, because it's like a superpower that can calm us and it can help us just breathe and be with the energy, and it can let the yucky muck go, because we don't need to carry that with us where we're going. You just don't need to. And at this point, whatever is coming up is most likely things that you have been working on. Okay, again, we're pulling up that North Node conjunction with Uranus from the summer. We're pulling up the eclipse from November 8th. We're just closing out our own eclipse season right now. And so also just mentioning Pluto, yes, ruler of Scorpio. Co-ruler or traditional ruler is Mars, and Mars has been in a very important place throughout eclipse season, which is in Cancer. And just as this eclipse happens, Mars has been in a really tight square with Chiron, our wounded healer in Aries, and that thankfully is opening up a bit. It's not as tight as it has been, but that energy is still part of this eclipse. It's another layer, also speaking to wounds healing, also speaking to the waters of childhood transforming. Again, these are deep reflective pools that we can kind of look in, and I really invite you to smile, as you look at yourself in that pool and just see how far you've come and see what you can let go of, what wants to heal, what path do you want to walk as a truly embodied being, as a truly empowered being. We can walk it. It might not happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen overnight, but some parts of it might. And these psychic kind of sloughings, they're the biggest piece. Then things fall into place, right? Maybe there's plot twists. Uranus is the maker of plot twists, and we end up somewhere we didn't think we would be. But if we open to that experience and we let go of this cognitive mind that just gets such an overworked, developed muscle in our society, and we come into the body's way of knowing, and we come into the scorpionic, watery ways of being, it's pretty good. And that's what this eclipse is also inviting us to be into. Okay. So these are the themes that we're working with. These are the themes that are coming up. They do run deep. Scorpio runs deep. We all have Scorpio. Even if you have an empty house in Scorpio, Scorpio is still with you and in you. If you have Scorpio stelliums, which I know a number of listeners do, let the true Scorpio magic out. Scorpio is magical when it's not being weighed down by that crap that it doesn't need. And this is the last point I wanted to make. A lot of what we're letting go of might be energy that we absorbed from others. This is what Scorpio does. It merges, especially if we're talking about patternings of childhood and power. When we're children, we can't but absorb the energies, especially of caregivers, parents. And if that is involving this kind of misunderstanding, you know, this is not about blame. Some parents just don't understand power. Some parents are exhausted. Our society is very confusing. Then there's also holding folks accountable when they were misusing or abusing power, and we can distance ourselves from them completely. Let that be their karmic journey, and let us go live a beautiful life. We can do that. This eclipse is a type of portal with that. Okay, so blessings to you all, wherever you are. I am back in BC. There's the trees instead of my little yellow nook. And I will see you soon. Take care.